Warranty Wire.
Customer trust.
AI.
Every day in the warranty world.
Mark, good to see you again. Welcome back.
It's been a hot minute, huh? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Valentine's Day.
Any more we missed in there? I'm sure there's some other holidays we missed in there between now and the last time we did one of these.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, hey, we got some great news, right?
We have. We are back for season 2. We have not been axed. We have been renewed. We've not followed the many failed sitcoms and programs out there. We have been renewed for a second season.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. We have like over 1 million viewers and subscribers, something like that. Maybe tens of millions.
It was maybe even up to the 500 million. I think last time we were looking. But
it's insane. This thing has really just jumped out there. Everybody loves it. Got a lot of good feedback. Yeah. So looking forward to season 2. Obviously, real quick, we're missing one of our hosts.
We are only for this week though. So
okay.
She will be back. Becca will be back. Normal service will be resumed. But,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, let's see how bad we can screw this up without her.
Well, welcome back, and welcome back everybody else. So as we have been renewed for a second season, welcome back everybody to the Warranty Wire. So as you will all remember, Warranty Wire is the place for real talk about warranty in the age of automation, AI, and elevated expectations. So we thank you firstly for everybody that kind of tuned into season 1 and gave us really positive feedback on everything that we went through. We hope you did enjoy season 1, because season 2 does promise to be packed with a lot more knowledge, surprises, and inevitably laughs along the way, probably at my expense, but hey. So in this first episode, we want to tackle quite a hard-hitting area. So we want to kind of get things started with regulation and legal within the warranty industry. So I think, Mark, when it comes to legislation and law, even though everybody knows it's important, I think it's maybe not an exciting area to explore. So it's maybe at the back of everybody's minds, but not necessarily an area that they explore in detail.
Yeah. I think the one for me that really jumps out, that's, kind of, it did pick up some steam a couple of years ago. It has since been put in the back burner as far as federally regulations out there, is the click to cancel. The Federal Trade Commission, FTC, click to cancel. Basically, it was, hey, you have to make canceling just as easy as you make it to purchase, right? So that went through the courts. They're back. The latest is that they're back to kind of rewording things. And so we continue to go down this potential of click to cancel becoming a federal legislation. However, there are a few states out there that require this, right? California, New York, Colorado. There's a couple others that might not have the specific language, but basically the gist of it is that, hey, we're going to protect the consumer at all costs. You have to make it just as easy to cancel as you do to purchase, and specifically with subscription, right? I think as we see the dynamics of the environment out there, everybody has, various subscriptions, specifically with media, right? Whether it's, YouTube TV, Netflix, Paramount Plus, et cetera, all the big time games out there, the gaming, you pay monthly subscriptions. Obviously they make it really easy to purchase. Give you some opportunities to have, 30 days, 90 days free. And then we'll start charging day 91. And it's always been a challenge to go ahead within that period and find where I go ahead and I cancel, right? So that's what ultimately they're trying to solve for. Let's be honest, that's what's in the best interest as, for a consumer. So the cool thing here is that we've had this since day one on our end, right? we have a customer portal that is obviously communicated to every new subscription in the welcome emails. They click on that link, and then they can have the self assisting portal where they can update, they can cancel. It's very easy. No passwords needed. So that's a cool thing. We call it niche on our end. So yeah, that's ultimately, where when we talk to our clients, we bring them up to speed if they're not necessarily in the loop on that. But we ultimately have their back, and we communicate that to them, and it's just best practice.
Yeah, I remember the kind of, I guess, flurry and panic in the market when the FTC originally had kind of declared that this was going to be the case, where you saw a lot of sellers in kind of two camps. You had sellers who had buried all of their cancellation language in the fine print. In like you said, it's dead easy to sign up. I've made this mistake myself. You sign up to an easy subscription, it gets to like day 89, and it's like, right, okay, I don't want this anymore. How do I cancel? It's like, oh my god, I have no idea how to cancel. I've got to call them. I've got to, and then I get passed from pillar to post. So we saw a lot of sellers that were kind of burying the cancellation language, but then also, how do I embrace technology to allow consumers to do this? Because I have a call center set up to handle cancellations and to to kind of handle that, but I don't have anything set up technologically to just help consumers do this easily. So we kind of saw two camps, I think, and you'll agree with some of the sellers.
Yeah, I know that's 100% correct. And I think that, when you look at it when you reference call centers, right? It's, again, you're calling somebody, you're setting up the subscription, et cetera, making the purchase. And a lot of times, in order to cancel, guess what? You got to call them up again. And they make it really painful to cancel, where they're going to try all different types of tactics to save the sale, because obviously it's in their best interest as a company, maybe not so as a consumer. But yeah, the point is that, hey, call us up. We'll set up the transaction. Obviously, in the communication, the email, we'll send them digitally. They can go ahead and access the portal and cancel just as easy.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so I think that's the thing, when it comes to the FTC with click to cancel, there was a lot of sellers there that weren't necessarily set up for this, that weren't, had to react very, very quickly to something that was implemented. And one thing as a business that we are really good at is being able to keep up to speed with what are the change in regulations, what are the laws that are coming in place, not specifically just in the warranty industry, but what affects things like subscription management. So one of the things I would say, to anybody that's kind of listening to this podcast is start to actually distinguish between what's just hearsay, what may happen, and what's likely to get implemented. Because, Mark, I'm sure you saw it as well with click to cancel. There was a lot of consumers out there. There was a lot of sellers that were thinking, this is never going to happen. This is just pure hearsay. It's going to take years and years to implement. And it did take years to implement.
Yeah.
But then it happened. Yeah.
I mean, it did, and it's still continuing, right? And so they now know where the judicial system, stands on this, right? And so now they're going to go back and they're going to, reword, this, and eventually it will get to that point to where it becomes federal legislation without a doubt.
Right.
It very well could happen by the end of this year.
Right.
So like ultimately, specifically for the warranty industry, what are you seeing as far as new kind of emerging regulations on your end?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as you can imagine, I sit up at night. I scroll through Google, and this is my life. This is what I do. But I think for me, there's kind of three trends I think that I'm seeing. The first of which is around like the disclosure language. So when it comes to actually purchasing that protection, what we're seeing more and more with states like Washington, for example, is that the disclosure language that's presented to that particular consumer has to be specific to the state. Mm-hmm. And that's something else actually to consider when you're looking at the potential for changes, look at what is state specific versus across the US. Because if you think about, let's take a slightly different stance, the CCPA Act. Everybody thought that CCPA would be the stance that every single state would take. And actually, that wasn't the case. Then states started to develop their own version of CCPA. It started to really morph on a state-by-state regulation. So definitely, as we've seen, Washington adopt that disclosure language quite early on, and we're starting to see other states follow suit as well.
Yeah.
Then I think, one of the things that the FTC and the NMWA is really clamping down quite hard on is some of the practices. So like they call them the anti-tie-in practices. So that proposes actually to make it illegal for manufacturers to state that a warranty is voided if the consumer gets the vehicle repaired at, say, an independent shop, or they use non-branded parts. So it's tying them back to that original seller and making it illegal for warranty providers and protection providers to make that a requirement. So, they're reviewing a lot in terms of the practices of a lot of these warranty providers and protection providers. And then one that's, I would say, kind of in the distance, but again, is getting a lot more traction is like the E-Warranty Act. Mm-hmm. So that's not yet, as far as I know, transformed into like the US warranty law, but it pushes the FTC more towards how warranties can be disclosed online and electronically. And kind of similar to the click to cancel, it really anticipates a lot more of a digital first warranty communication. So, this is where it's pushing all of these sellers and these administrators to be digital first, to be transparent, to not tie consumers into subscription models that they can't get out of. It very much puts the consumer at the head of everything. So, this is how sellers are having to react and administrators.
Yeah, no, great points and interesting and emerging there. So I think, for me, hearing all that, it's like, wow, this could be a little overwhelming. So for our millions of viewers out there, how do you stay ahead of the curve? I think for me, there's a couple of things that can allow you to be proactive here. Obviously, in our past episodes, we talked about AI. That's probably the biggest one, right? Utilizing AI, again, monitoring Congress and the states continue to implement all these new monitoring and regulations, et cetera, and just being on top of that and utilizing AI to provide you that information. Another one is, when we talk about just looking at your own internal processes, right? PII information, sensitive information, just making sure that those are all on the up and up. We're very sensitive of personal data out there. So again, utilizing security processes, et cetera, to protect that data. And I think the last thing is the government, right? So a lot of information out there through FTC, through the government code of conduct. And then, just another way of utilizing technology is put up Google alerts to see, again, what comes out. It seems like, weekly, there's always new information. There's always new conversations that are being had. You got a lot of lobbyists out there, et cetera. And so it's always evolving. And so just making sure that you're staying on top of it.
Right. And, you make a good point there about the AI side of things. So I know AI is one that we've touched on quite a lot in previous podcasts, but where it's kind of different to, I guess, some of the more general legislation is AI is advancing by the day. Let's take the example of, X that got hit recently with their usage of their own AI, Grok. And it was like overnight, you have to change the way that Grok works. This wasn't like, gradual over 6 months, 12 months. It was like, right, you need to change the practices like overnight. Mm-hmm. So in particular with AI, we've talked about how companies can adopt AI. They can use it for their own internal processes. It also comes with a whole host of considerations about, well, in what way are we using AI? Are we using it with personal information? Are we using it more generally for our processes? And that's where, the likes of Congress are passing laws and legislation on a weekly basis about what's permitted to be done with AI. So we talk about long term, but we also need to talk about what is potentially going to be in the next few months with the ever advancement of AI.
Yeah, it's definitely evolving.
Right. Well, it's good to be back. I don't know what you are, but it feels like an eternity since we last did one of these.
It does.
We've obviously come back with a pretty hard hitting topic, but it's a hotbed activity at the moment, so definitely one that we wanted to cover in detail. It is good to be back to the Warranty Wire in 2026, and all it remains to say is kind of thank you for everybody that's returning with us for season 2, and stay tuned for more exciting topics, discussions, and all things warranty.
Warranty Wire.
Customer trust.
AI.
Every day in the warranty world.